Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Combat Chat Podcast. I said in the comeback episode that I wasn't going to do a ton of interviews, but some people are just too worth my time.
Got to make exceptions sometimes, you know.
Sitting here with now a repeat guest, head striking coach, Southside Muay Thai and MMA.
Yeah.
Rawai, Phuket, Thailand. How long have you been a Phuket local for now?
So I tell people about 8 years.
8 years.
So previously I was fighting here for a long time. Well, not for a long time, but for like 4 years. And then, delved into the coaching realm. And I've been here since probably about 6 months before COVID, full time now.
And still loving it?
Every day, mate. Every time I leave, I get more excited to come back.
Mr. Sam Cassidy. So, I was having a listen, like I said, when I got here to our last episode, just having a refresher. So a lot's happened between. So I guess what I'd say to the listeners is like for Sammy's full background and the stories, because it's a pretty cool story. Like I always find it interesting when it's a pretty cool time for combat sports in Thailand that there is more opportunity than ever for non-Thai trainers to kind of make a name for themselves, and we'll get into a little bit of that. But if you want, Sammy's full background story, I'll leave the previous episode in the show notes, and you can just listen to us for 4 straight hours. Prerequisite viewing. But I guess I thought a cool starting place would be give us a little bit of, last time I spoke to you, you were working out of Powerhouse, which is a really cool gym, not far from where you are now.
Yeah.
I guess give us the update. How's your role changed? How's your day-to-day changed? And kind of what's been happening since we last spoke?
Yeah. So, I was down at Powerhouse with Jackie Lowe and the team, great stable down there. And it was just kind of a circumstance of events that happened. So originally, Powerhouse was actually supposed to go to where Southside is now.
Yep.
But, some negotiations and stuff didn't really go to plan. And then we were looking at other places, and the things just kind of kept happening that were just kind of, speaking to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually the guys at Southside were like, hey, listen, would you be interested in starting your own thing? And I actually spoke with Jack about it, and initially he was a bit like, oh, well, no, you're part of us, but he kind of understood where I wanted to go. And it was actually his last little bit of blessing that kind of pushed me over. He goes, man, I'd actually be a really bad friend if I didn't tell you to go and pursue this. So obviously Powerhouse is just straight Muay Thai.
Yeah. And,
like I said, a good stable. They got Omnoy Stadium champions and stuff.
Yeah, they're a really cool gym.
Really cool gym, really good people. Still very, very close with them, which is something that I'm really appreciative of, because, some people leave gyms and that's the end of the relationship. But
I think kind of everyone involved in the gym has a story.
Yeah, some bad taste somewhere else. Yeah, but so I went down to Southside and started the whole gym down there, the program. Just Muay Thai originally I started down there with obviously the Thai trainers. Again, one of those things that's a very difficult kind of process, because there was a few Thai trainers already there, but they didn't really have anything happening. They were just not mucking around, but just kind of, seeing what they could make happen.
Kind of they had a bunch of pad holders, but not exactly a program.
Yes, exactly. And every day was something different. And obviously as a new gym, it was hard to, clarify exactly how many people you're kind of going to get every day. So one day there'd be one person or something like that. So just came and kind of implemented structure, but doing that without offending the Thais or being or them being who's this fucking foreigner just coming in here telling us what to do.
Yeah.
But, luckily I picked up the most common traits of the trainers over the years and seen, a really good way to kind of bring myself into the program rather than assert myself.
Yeah.
So just basically getting accepted by them, doing that. So then, we started the Muay Thai program, and so Southside is an MMA based gym.
Yep.
As your partner trains with us as well. It's kind of how I forced myself onto the show, blackmailed you. But we have a really good Muay Thai program and really, really high level Thai trainers. But as the gym started to grow, I saw a pretty big hole in the MMA striking department. And I was never really a conventional training person anyway, because I never really got any pads because I was always too big and stuff like that. So probably I'd say 80% of my sparring was always with MMA guys.
With MMA guys, yeah.
So I kind of picked up a few traits from them, which I implemented into my Thai game, which worked really well, like a heavy feinting and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my problem was, as a fighter, my ambition exceeded my ability, So like my first ever fight, I actually lied about how many fights I'd had so that someone would fight me. I was like, yeah, I've had 4 fights. And they're like, oh, okay. Then I went and fought a guy who was like 5-1 and beat him. And then kind of just from there, it all evolved and sent us to the situation now, where I'm head striking coach. So I'm not just Muay Thai, I'm MMA based. I would almost kind of have to say that I am an MMA striking only coach at the minute.
Yeah.
But Muay Thai is still number one.
Well, I mean, I suppose for where you're at now, like more people travel to Southside to train MMA.
Yeah.
And like training Muay Thai fighters out of a Thai, like there's always fights to be had in Muay Thai. Like if you don't have to you don't have to be all the way in on Muay Thai. It's like if someone comes through and they want to have a fight at Rawai Stadium, for example, it's not the same commitment level as to train up for an MMA fight. There's less organization. You can do it every single week. So I guess if something's to be a central focus out of Southside, it'll probably be the MMA guys.
Yeah,
They're sort of the main stable.
And like you said, it's that kind of like back to what we said around the implementation of structure. Like the MMA guys, you've only got that date.
Yeah.
There's no if buts, which we do have sometimes. Well, in Australia, you have that for the big shows and stuff, for Rebellion and shit.
Yeah.
But like you said, someone could come and train for a week and they're fighting by the end of the week.
They can fight, yeah. And like I suppose Western Muay Thai is probably a bit more like MMA.
A little bit more structured,
Thailand Muay Thai is its own thing. Like, and that's sort of where it's can like just have
the beauty and the beast,
Yeah, and like you've had MMA guys sort of jump in on local Muay Thai because they are so. It's one of the best things about coming here, especially if you're a kind of like an entry level fighter, is that you can almost like at home we train to fight.
Yeah.
In Thailand, you have the opportunity to fight to train. You test your development by
100%.
And there's a lot of. I feel like the level is almost more clearly defined.
Yeah.
In Thailand, it's it's one of the most interesting things about coming to, especially somewhere like Phuket, is like you can go and have an entry level fight, whereas at home that's very difficult. It's really hard to. Gauge.
Yeah, trying to get the right match up and trying to do all that stuff as well. I think it's almost too much pressure gets put on them. Even like the structure that they have now, like with Muay Vic and stuff like that, unbelievable.
It's awesome, yeah.
But they're almost making it like it's a huge fight. Like it's kind of like this is the beginning of everything.
Yeah,
it's kind of not the fun, but I suppose like the simpleness of just getting in and having a fight is gone.
Yeah, and I think that can be. Look, there's a lot of problems that can come with sending one of your younger fighters to just go and rack up a whole bunch of fights.
Yeah,
in Thailand as well. Like they might be over here fighting, the level might be low, and they might not have the clearest understanding that they're having lower level fights, get false confidence, and also they might not have to make weight, and then they go home and they're just like, because I think most trainers have experienced something like that. They come home like, I've had 12 fights, I'm pretty crash hot.
Yeah.
Give me some big fights on the top show, and like this dude's no experience cutting weight, no really experience dealing with a whole lot of resistance, like because he's just how you're managed over here.
Yeah. Can
really paint very different pictures of what kind of the outcome is. But I wanted to I'm really interested in kind of speaking with you, like in some of the conversations we have. It's really fascinating for me to hear someone who comes from like a Thai boxing, / kickboxing, like a striking background to kind of adapt or, to become an MMA striking coach. Because what I find is in Australia, like MMA and Muay Thai are different. They're different worlds. Whereas in other parts of the world, it's common to see the top Thai boxing coaches also being MMA striking coaches. I find in Australia they are chalk and cheese. It's almost like in Australia there's very little awareness. I could go to most like a lot of my friends that I know through Muay Thai, they'd have no idea who the top UFC guys are. Like, it's not even like they don't follow the sport.
It's almost like frowned upon to even say that you're watching like a UFC event.
Yeah, I mean, like, I actually think Muay Thai guys are like just sort of jealous of MMA guys because like people care about MMA, and like the reality is like our sport is small, but
one of the best people in the world, but also probably the most opinionated person, Pinky.
Pinky, we love Pinky.
Pinky's the first person that comes to my head when I think of, you know, he's like, I'm not that gay shit, you know. But what you got to, the UFC's only been around for 20 or 30 years.
30 years now, yeah.
And it's the biggest sport in the world. Muay Thai's been around for hundreds of years.
And I was saying this on, I got a really cool question in the last episode that was like, what do you think the UFC at the Sphere means for wider combat sports? And I mean, what we kind of touched on as part of that question was like, if you are in any kind of sports promotion, if you're on the promotional side of Muay Thai and you don't think you can learn from a sport that went from not existing to being the biggest sports property in the world in 30 years, you're just being like ignorant.
That's Muay Thai, you know? Like,
but without getting into too much of that, I'm interested to hear kind of like what I suppose was training MMA striking something that you really just like jumped at, or was it something you're like, I'm not sure if, because it's like I sometimes, for example, I'm talking to Kim and she asks me a question about, you know, something to do with like the striking side of MMA, and I'm like, I have no idea. Like I'm just, it's too different. And like she kind of like pushes me to be like, you understand that side of it. And like to me, like my perspective's always been they're so different. Like I don't think even Muay Thai is that similar to MMA striking when it's done with the proper point scoring conventions and stuff like that. There's definitely a lot that you could, like I look at MMA guys strike sometimes and I find there's like sort of like mechanical fixes, like in terms of Muay Thai is very like a very efficient, very power oriented striking art. But from the game planning perspective, that's where I find it's like the approach is very different. So what was the adjustment like to try to like view striking through that MMA lens rather than what you were used to?
So how it all kind of fell into place was, you know, the promotion fight circus.
Yep.
So
shout out to Blob Tank.
Yeah. I actually took a fight on that against Panda Banks, who's a WBC world champion. So he's a really good example of somebody who just, you know, he's not a journeyman per se, but he just fights everything, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can't be a world title holder and be a journeyman. So they gave me a fight with him. It was 1 round boxing, 1 round Muay Thai, 1 round MMA. And like it was the first time they'd ever done it anywhere in the world, to my knowledge. And I was just like, you know, working with some of the boys and would have stand-up rounds. And I would, you know, be heavy kick orientated and things like that and figuring out, this is what I need to do. But as soon as I went to the MMA rounds, everyone knew that by then. So they just catch my legs and fucking take me down. Yeah. So it kind of all started from that, where I was like, hold on, there's, you know, not massive differences, but the smallest minute details that make huge difference, you know. The key focal point is stance.
Yep.
So like stance and footwork. Like I know a lot of Muay Thai people say, footwork. There's not, like if I think of footwork, you know, like Lurdzilla, Sanchai, stuff like that, they actually have footwork. Yeah. Where a lot of Muay Thai fighters think they have footwork when they have nothing. Yeah. You know, they're, like you said, very, very dominant in the power and making sure that they're, you know, getting the most out of every strike. And again, with MMA, it's a little bit like you might have to sacrifice a power shot to, you know, to accumulate. Yeah. But so it started from there, and then I actually kind of fell in love with the science, I suppose, of it. Understanding the footwork, understanding the movements, and it's like I have a saying, which I say all the time, is chess, not checkers. Yeah. You know, so like a lot of things that we work on, like I also have another saying, I'm full of these stupid sayings, that we write checks and we cash them out later. Yep. You know, so continuously doing the same movement, setting up for something to come after, which is a common thing for any combat sports. But in MMA, it's like it's a game changer. Yeah.
And so you, of course, also do still have, you know, a hand in Muay Thai, like we said. I'm also interested in how going over to kind of change your perspective on striking to fit its MMA, was there things you took back to coaching Muay Thai people and were like, actually, that's, you know, like, that's something I adjusted from MMA, but I might keep it. I kind of like the way it works.
Yeah. So feinting, definitely feinting.
More feinting, yeah.
Feinting and things like what we call like a hip drop, and, you know, like pretty basic kind of stuff, but there's so many intricate details that can do it. Like I tell people, you know, whatever vision you can create on the other side is the way that they can read the book.
Yeah.
So like I've actually learned a lot from MMA, just like, you know, researching, watching fights, seeing things, picking up different, like, you know, notes about how people move, and, you know, like it's like McGregor, for instance, you know, like very, very good at feinting and providing shots from places that you don't think they're coming from. I took a lot of that back to Muay Thai, because like what can be kind of hard is Friday night I'm at Rawai Stadium. Yeah. And next Saturday I'm at Vegas in the UFC. So it's like balancing all that type of stuff out is fucking awesome. But it's the, you know, making sure that I don't take too much from the week before over to the next fight or something like that.
And for people listening who kind of don't understand what you're saying there, is like, you're saying like when you're at Rawai Stadium, you're at very development level Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And then when you're in Vegas, you're at the best of the best level MMA. So sometimes it can be difficult to try to line up what applies from one to the other. Whereas it might be more applicable if you were talking world-class Muay Thai and world-class MMA, or development level Muay Thai and development level MMA. But it's very difficult to try to take lessons from.
At the end of the day, they're completely different sports.
Yeah.
You know? Yes, everything's very, very similar, but, you know, there's simple things like the takedowns and stuff like that are, you know, huge difference. So it's an interesting thing to balance it, and I fucking love it, because it's really cool to be just at the stadium on Friday and then somewhere else around the world, or you know, like, but there's no room. There's a lot less room for error in MMA as well, which is, I think, what attracts me to that striking point of it.
Kind of similar to how we're seeing Muay Thai fighters have to justify in the one championship format, for 100%. Example. Yeah.
That's why you're seeing, like, you know, 10 knockouts a night and stuff like that. It's like I said, it's a game of chess. So like I just really thoroughly enjoy that part of it. And like I said, I wasn't the greatest fighter, but I've really becoming a good coach, and like gaining that self-confidence and understanding why I'm doing it. And then I get, you know, like someone will give me a great compliment, like Matty Bones and stuff like that. Then I'm like, all right, sweet, I'm doing everything in the right way, doing the right stuff. So it's only the beginning, really. Like I've only been at it for 3 years, but
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and like I try to be humble, you know, because like I have a lot of people wanting me to fail, which makes it again even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've been at this for 3 years, you know, and I've been probably, you know, without sounding like a dickhead, like one of the most fast rising coaches in the game.
Well, like, I mean, like I'm not. I think I said something similar when we got here. It's like, I'm not just saying this is your mate to like blow smoke up your ass. It's like being around Thailand and getting here. We would hear people mention, like, it was because like I always knew you, and like your name comes up on the scene at home, but like we would be traveling around Thailand and people would mention you as like a striking coach that they really want to. That was like a crazy like perspective to get coming in and just hearing how you're spoken about by people. Like, you know, I'm just meeting someone for the first time. Like, they don't even realize we know each other.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I sometimes go down to Rawai. There's this really good striking coach there. I was like, oh, he's like, it's actually like there's waves.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool to see.
It's like I'm like I have an addictive personality no matter what it is, you know. If I gamble, I'm gambling everything. You know, it's like red or black, put the house on it, no dramas. So when I'm passionate about something, it's my be all and end all, you know.
Yeah.
Like I do Muay Thai class in the morning, like I coach that, then I'll coach the MMA at 11, and then at 5 I'll come back, even if I'm not necessarily coaching, and I'm there just watching Colt and Campbell and stuff like that, and trying to pick up on, you know, oh, okay, well, that maybe I can include this from a clinching point from the wrestling and things like that. Because I'm still, you know, learning on the job, like you should be learning every day anyway. Yeah. It's just, it's an addiction, you know? And I think that comes through in my coaching, and I'm very, very passionate, you know, like, and it has been a downfall for me sometimes of being overly passionate. And like on the weekend, I think you were there when I made that kid cry, but I did it out of out of love as well, you know. And I was like, listen, if I didn't think you had some sort of talent or possibility, I wouldn't even bother with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like we bring people in on their day off to help each other and, you know, that team environment. But it's, it's an addiction. Yeah. So it's working very, very well for me at the moment. So I think I've made the right choice.
Absolutely. A question I had, just like kind of off of one of the last questions, is now being spread across kind of all the combat sports from a striking perspective, what do you like to watch these days? Like, because, you know, a lot of people, for example, that come from that more classic Muay Thai background aren't really about one championship Muay Thai, for example. It's not their thing. Whereas more so MMA fans, that might be the only Muay Thai they can really watch because they kind of get it. Like, when you're watching classic style of Muay Thai, are you still all about that? Are you less interested? Has it changed kind of what you like to watch, what you're most interested in? And I guess like there's so many different formats now across RWS 1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, what's exciting you looking at the next 5 years?
So that's kind of funny because I'm getting so far in MMA, but I barely watch MMA. I watch if one of my fight, like, you know, if I need to do some research or stuff like that, or, you know, people that I've kind of trained but I'm not there, I'll watch. Yeah. But I'm still just watching Muay Thai all the time. RWS, I think RWS is probably my favorite thing to watch. You know, it's not obviously traditional Muay Thai, but I mean, I enjoy one, but I also kind of see the point of, you know, it's a little bit over the top as well. But for me, I'm still just watching Muay Thai all the time. Yep. Like, if there's a massive card on and, you know, like everyone's like, hey, we're going to go and have breakfast, and because the cards are like 8 a.m. here as well, so it's like, it's not like the same concept as home where you're like, oh, we'll go have a beer, it's on 2 o'clock. But because I hate, like passionately hate jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, you know, like passionately. So when it's like happening in a fight, I'm like, oh, fuck this. But like, that's a thing that is going to be probably the worst trait that I've created for myself over the last couple of years is, as I'm getting really, really good at this stuff, I have to succumb to learning more about jiu-jitsu. And
you're just in the corner for MMA fights and the girls are going like, just get up, man.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Just get up. Please don't do this. Even like Maddie the other day, you know, I was like, I rewatched Colt's fight.
Commentary clip.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, he's in his corner, but that's not going to help shit because Sam Cassidy's there. And I was like, shit, I've created too much of a trend on myself here. But it's, listen, I respect jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I understand it and all that shit, but it's just so gay. It's just so gay. But yeah, like it's all evolution, unfortunately. And I'm going to have to succumb to learning about it.
And so give a little shout, if you will, to like who you've got. Like, it's a cool, I really like Southside. Yeah. I like, you know, like when Kim's doing her, what do you call that? The spider. Yeah. Doing her like real hard session on Saturday. I'm already finished training and I just like kind of come and cheer her on and stuff, because you guys have a really good community. And like, that's what I think a lot of, especially, it's interesting to see like a lot of especially bigger Muay Thai gyms, in Phuket especially, it'd be different in other parts of time, but they do lose that sense of community. It's a very like customer focused, because it's so like all the investment in Muay Thai from Thailand at the moment, so tourism based. So it's like just like a production line. Everyone get through the pads. Everyone like you really like it's an interesting thing for me about being in Phuket compared to other parts of Thailand I've trained in, that it's like you can train at a gym for weeks and actually not really meet anyone. Because there's so people. I get messages like, oh, my mate's at Simbi, have you seen him? Maybe. But I like the community that you've got. Like, it is a real team feeling. And I guess so. Who are your fighters to watch at the moment?
So our team is built off like we have a huge emphasis on quality over quantity. Yeah. You know, I was a part of Tiger for 4 years. Yeah. So I was at the top of the chain when it comes to production lines. Yeah. But still, you know, had great time.
It's not to knock a gym like that. It's a different type of.
Hey, mate, credit to them. If we could make 400 million baht a year,
correct,
fucking do it, you know. But it's just not the way we're going. So we have a good little structure. Like Colton Kilbasa, you know, he just fought for the Eternal title recently. He's our team captain. Yep. So former Marine, just the most dedicated person you'll ever see in your life. So he'll be back at the end of the year. We're working on the rematch now because he absolutely flogged a guy until he didn't. You know, he's like, 3 rounds of just absolute domination until it wasn't. So Colt's the team captain. And then we got Campbell, who's he's now 3-1 in MMA. He's the world record holder for the longest jiu-jitsu roll ever, which makes him probably the gayest man ever because he spent the most time. But
that's 30-something hours.
I think it was like 32 hours, and he did it for a charity event, and amazing thing. Then we've got obviously Kimmy's coming up through the ranks. We got who else? We got Nat Wonder Girl as part of our team.
Nat Wonder Girl, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So she's just had a big surgery, so she'll be back in the start of the year.
Cool.
So I haven't actually had a chance to work with her yet, so it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, coming from a Muay Thai background and her being a Muay Thai background. We've got a really good Russian kid, Timur, as well. I think he's got 4 on the trot at the moment. He started off really bad. He was like me. He took all these stupid fights in like Dagestan and stuff like that, and got the shit kicked out of him. Our amateur team's coming up a lot, really well. But like you said, we have a huge focus on doing everything for each other.
Yeah.
If there's any individuals, we've kind of already gotten rid of them as the time's gone on. We're a young gym, but like we're making waves all over the world.
Yeah.
And then I've got my pro guys that aren't. They're very much when they're in the gym, they're all about the gym. They're about everyone there, but they're not per se Southside fighters. You know, like obviously Rob Valentine. Rob Zilla. He just fought for the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
Brendan Loughnane, who I've had for a long
PFL
time.
champion.
PFL champion, about to go for he actually flies in tomorrow to start camp again. So he's going back for the second time for the world title in the $1 million.
Going for another $1 million. That's nice.
So we're off.
That's a lot of baht.
Yeah, that's a lot of baht. That's a lot of baht. That's a lot of time down in Patong,
Yeah.
So he flies in tomorrow. We get back into camp. Obviously, I was lucky enough to train Darren Till for his last fight before he moved on from MMA for a bit. Phil Hawes was another really good guy that I had through there. Marvin Vittori. So, like I said, I've only been in this game for a short amount of time, but I've made a pretty big impact straight away. And
and I know you describe a lot of the things that you're doing like very humbly, but I mean when you've set up pretty much every cool opportunity that I've had here, and I've really enjoyed watching the way you like to help people that are about it. If you were one of the reasons I'm here in Thailand altogether, because where you caught up after I had we'll probably over time tell this story in more detail, but I had a pretty hard loss. We had a conversation. My jaw was wired shut, so it was a one-sided conversation.
You're very good at this.
You've really changed my perspective on the value that I could take from coming to Thailand. I was looking at it from the wrong perspective, and I think how I feel from doing it is everything that you said I've gained from it. It's my eyes have been open to it as I live it. I was I didn't realize how badly, in a lot of ways, that I needed to kind of do this. But even so all these opportunities that I've had have been through you being settled here and kind of vouching for me. But also why I bring that up is Enrico Cal was in town the other week, and I know you're not going to say it, but I sit down and speak with him. Again, you're not even listening. He's not saying it to make you feel good. He's the only trainer I'll work with in Thailand is Sammy. He says I've come and trained it with heaps of different Thai trainers. Yeah, they can hold the pads, but it's not the way, it's not advanced to the way that they don't understand my style and how to do it. And that's he's as legit as they come.
I forget about some of the people I actually work with, and he is just the nicest person I've ever come across, even then we went out for dinner, he's like, oh, can you tell him to come over and do some sparring with you, and I was like, Hugh, and you jumped on the opportunity, fuck yeah, I want to spar with him.
Fighting that Saturday, and I got to go and do some sparring with Enrico Cal. It's crazy, and what I also really like about it always is you work with all these guys, but I've been around combat sports for a very long time, and a lot of the time it's just about the Instagram picture. You're never someone like that could come and go and no one could hear that you were training them. And this is a dude who is not he doesn't have some sponsorship arrangement that means he has to train with you. He paid his own way to come here on holiday and wants to do, wants to get work in. He sees it as an opportunity, and that's it's pretty crazy really to come over here and see.
And the funny thing is I have all these people, like you say, Instagram, dudes are like 10,000 followers. They're like, hey, can I get a PT and I'll put you on my Instagram? Right? Like Enrico, Darren, Brendan, all these guys, they pay me before the session starts. They're like, mate, we're here to train with you.
That's how someone like really understands valuable training. Yeah.
When I get that, like, you know, everyone has issues, you know. There's been times where I was like, oh, I don't really, whatever, there was internal stuff going on at the gym. I was like, oh, they're like, mate, you tell me to meet you in a park, I'm coming to train with you. I'm not, you know, necessarily give a fuck where you are. And I try and humble that down, you know, because I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I'm still got so much to learn. But it's really refreshing when I hear stuff like that, and it makes me feel like I'm doing the right stuff.
And a question I had, like, I think it's an interesting one to get sort of your take on, is it's been like 8 years in total here in Thailand now. Like, if you could give like Sammy who got here a glimpse forward into the future here, full-time living, making your living as a coach, like, do you think you would have believed it was possible?
Absolutely not. Like you said, there's always, and it still is, the stigma of a foreign Muay Thai coach in Thailand, you know? Like, there's maybe a dozen. You've got obviously like Leo and stuff like that, who are the top cream of the crop, who was the person I actually was like trying to emulate when I first started. I was like, all right, well, that's the goal that I'm going down. Yeah. But because I'm so big and I don't have all these big heavyweight MMA fighters, that's kind of what helped the transition as well. But absolutely not, no. So like, I just came here on a fat camp. You know, I'd never actually done Muay Thai or anything like that. I was playing high-level rugby, as we spoke about in the last one. And golf. Still play golf. Like, golf here the other day and just won the tournament. But it was a stage in my life in Australia. It was kind of similar. Like, no one really had the conversation with me like we had that time at Rebellion, you know, like what you're talking about. I just kind of got to a situation where I was like, listen, I was working in construction on union sites as a crane operator. So I was earning like big dollars. Yeah. But I made a conscious decision in my life that I'd rather be happy and poor for the rest of my life than rich and miserable. And to me, the only thing that was making me happy was Muay Thai. Yeah. So I just kind of went, fuck it, I'll pack it all up and give it a go. Worst case scenario, I buy a return ticket and I go home. Yeah. You know? Kind of like how we spoke about that.
And that was more or less the words you said to me. Is like, if it doesn't work out for you, if you don't like this, you go home.
What's the biggest thing?
There's another job for you to get.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's sad because when I watched you fight Corey Smith is when I was like, fuck yeah, this guy's good. You know, like there was, because you took like 485 leg kicks and I was like.
I warmed up a little in that one.
Yeah. And I kind of like kept an eye on you through that. And then, you know, Maddie would always talk about you and you would, you know, beat down at Bones and stuff. And I was like, this guy's the cool cat, you know? And then when I seen that Kajiba fight, I was like, bro, like, you know, there was just, you were like me. And I know this kind of sounds a bit weird, but it was like, I was like, your ambition exceeded your ability there, you know? And there was like so much to be learned. But going back to the original question, it was just like you are now, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Yeah. If you don't give it a shot, what the fuck's the point of like even being in the sport, really?
And your take on that when we spoke back in December was really similar to a conversation I've had with like my now trainer, Sudan, that I've been working with here. Like, he was like, the Western mentality so much is like, this is the end. Yeah. Like, you felt like you were at the end. Like, you just hit, and it's like, you can't step away enough to realize it's like you're just starting to get there.
You're just scratching the surface.
You just like, you arrived at the top level and you just got told, not yet. Yeah. Like, you know, like.
And the problem is like a lot of people in Oz, there's so many talented people who come through and they just kind of disappear after like 1 or 2 main events, you know? And I'm like looking at this shit, like, what the fuck's going on? Like, do we have some sort of issue? Do we have a problem where, oh, you failed, so you might as well just fuck off?
I think there is a little bit of that. I also think it's similar to like what we were talking about, the defined levels here is like the trouble in Australia, and I've had a few conversations, like when you're having like high level fights that you're fighting like top 10 in the world guys, the amount of pressure to try to do that alongside a full-time job, like there's no other sport in the world really where, like, if you're fighting at that level in boxing or you're fighting at that level in MMA,
you're only training.
That's your job.
You're only training.
And you're probably living well too. You know what I mean? Like, and like the chance to kind of give away some of that pressure. And also in Australia, it's like, if you hit that level, you never go back. Yeah. It doesn't work. It can't work like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're so lucky in Australia that we have access to these top level guys. But we've got like the top like tier of these the populous weight classes, like your 63.5 to 72, it's not that many top guys. So once you become one of them, you can't sort of step back a little bit and find your feet. And a lot of people do just get lost in that. And
what's interesting as well is like a lot of promoters that we know as well aren't overly interested in rematching the same guys a lot as well, you know, because they're like, no, we just
fresh matches,
keep progressing. But it's actually in the long run kind of holding everyone back.
Yeah.
But you know, I think even Toby, like, you know, now Toby's kind of come back to Thailand and he's going back through the system again. Like, everyone forgets it. Like, he's like 31 or 32 or something.
He's been around forever.
It's just because he's been around for so long. But he did the same thing, you know. He got all the way to that top. And then it was like, oh, well, I've fallen off a little bit. But instead of picking back up and going again, it's kind of just like a big hiatus. Well, obviously, there was other shit going on as well. But like, it's happening to a lot of them. A lot of these guys just get to that certain stage. And I don't know where this stigma comes from, that like, oh, well, that's the end of it. You didn't make it.
I think it is quite like it's not even just, it's like a Western sports thing. Yeah. It's like if you try and you fail, and it's kind of like, I guess you see it from like fan responses in like top end fights, like in the UFC. But I was a bum. Every time like a champion loses, he was a bum. Sean O'Malley the other week, it was all like, oh, he was never good.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't have even been there.
See? Yeah. Like, I guess it's at a smaller scale in the sport that we do, but I think it's something people kind of internalize and just go, oh, well, fuck, I'm not good enough.
Which is sad because, like I said, there has to be some sort of like prerequisite to why people think like that, or, you know, because I've seen it in gyms. I've seen it happen in gyms myself where like someone might have been an Australian champion, you know, and then lost 2 goes at an international or a world title. And then even the gym itself is like, oh, well, you just go, we're going to bring somebody else up, rather than trying to get that person back.
Probably just stage. Like the nature of people having just short attention spans.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we do come from a sport where like all the top guys have won and lost, and you know, there's countless stories.
Well, look at Kunsaklek on the weekend. You know what I mean? Like, got knocked out like last.
You'd never believe. I was talking to Max about this yesterday. You'd watch that 5 rounds. That was a 5-round demolition job. Yeah. If I just showed you that and you had no context, you would never believe Ricky had knocked him out in the past.
If the fight that happened yesterday warranted a rematch, everyone would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Exactly. Yeah.
So, like, just don't even do that. And then don't do that to the poor kid.
He's only had 12 fights and he's had had 60. Why'd you even match him in the first place? But
like I said, that's why there's the rotation. And you said here the level, the entry level, the highness, everything. Like, you look at like. I might be wrong in this, but I think like Pep Bunchu and Sancho had like 5 or 6 fights or something like that, you know? Like, that's why they became so good at and became the names that they were.
And imagine if they had just fought once and we just gone, right, we've seen it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other like really beautiful things about stadium Muay Thai is like, it's never about one fight.
No.
Like all of the top guys, you know, like I think Superlek and Pampayak fought 9 times.
Yeah.
I mean, like the first time.
It's kind of funny how Superlek has gone up to be, you know, like almost a household name throughout the world, and Pampayak's kind of just resurfacing.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Because I think Pampayak won majority of the fights.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, Superlek chose 1 championship and Pampayak chose Omnoy and Channel 7.
Pampayak, he's contracted to 1 too, though.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They fought each other in 1.
Yeah.
And then that's a whole nother thing. But Pampayak's coming back now. Yeah, he's matched in 1 again. Now training under Leo Elias.
Yeah, I think his brother's with him as well,
They're both with Leo, yeah. And Kupayak's fighting for the world title in Italy soon.
Shit.
Yeah.
See, Leo, again, he's got 2 of the best highs in the world, and they're voluntarily coming to
They want to learn from him, yeah.
So, like, I'm hoping I can get to that stage. Yeah. What I would like to do, shout out to another guy that's out here as well, Johnny. He's got a kickboxing 1 world champion, an MMA 1 world champion, and now he's going for a boxing world champion. So I would like to get
champions in all styles.
Yeah, I would like to get to a stage where I have a Muay Thai world champion, an MMA world champion, not really boxing, but maybe kickboxing or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I have some pretty high level goals that I've set, and, you know, again, my ambitions probably exceeding everything, but
if you've come as far as you've come in 3 years,
that's what I'm thinking.
Like, really, the sky's the limit in the next 10.
I hope that everything that I'm thinking is going to happen. And, you know, like, I'm honest as well, you know, and I learned this through Muay Thai humility. A lot of people will have a fight and they'll lose and they won't say anything about it and just kind of like try and disappear.
You got to own all of it. You got to own the whole story.
Like, my first international escapade that I went on, I think I won 5 out of 6 fights. And this last one, like, So I did 4 continents in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I left here, went to Australia with Colt for that, eternal world title, come up short. Again, he was absolutely dominating the fight. Then I flew the day after to Vegas with Rob for the Ultimate Fighter finale. He came up short as well. Again, had situations where he'd almost finished the fight and stuff like that. And then from there, I flew to Spain, to Barcelona, to Leon, who actually he's the next big up-and-coming fighter that we've got. He's incredibly talented, hardworking young kid. He punched the absolute shit out of this bloke for so long that he tired himself out to a point where he couldn't defend himself. Like, he was on top of the guy, like just punching in the midway through round 3. And it was just so much that the guy literally just turned over and was like, I call it the Homer Simpson technique, Leon just punched him up for so long that he couldn't actually do anything.
I've used it.
Yeah. You like that technique too. But so first time ever in my coaching career that I got 3 losses on the trot, and all that did to me was I landed and I got in the gym the next day and I give everybody the same fucking thing, The fight's not over until it's over. So we got to fucking make sure that everything that we can sort here is here. And, I spoke with everyone that got back, like, fuck, it's good to have you back too, because like you see, I hold a huge, high level of professionalism for every single training session. There's no, we're going to have an easy day. Yeah. Even if we're having an easy day, everything's right. The break times are right. The round times are right. The efforts are right. Yeah. Just hopefully it all transitions into the right ways, which I think it is. Yeah. And it's cool to hear you make that mention of like telling the whole story, because I think it's a good kind of segue to you and I have a pretty cool announcement soon. I'm not exactly sure, but very soon. Very soon. It's going to start to, I think we're going to really be able to give some light to everything that you're doing here, plus everything that I'm doing as it happens. And we really, ever since I got here, like, you gave me this idea of like, I think the best thing you could do based on all your interests and all your strengths, like, they're kind of like wasted you trying to do them in the background of like a 9-to-5 job. Like, come here and make the main thing. So you and I could talk forever, and we've got more talking coming up. But we're like really, really excited. I think pretty much since we got here, we've had like a feeling that there's some pretty cool shit we could do, and it's kind of amazing the way it all just starts to kind of like unfold in front of you. Yeah. So we've got some really good shit coming up. So stay tuned for that. You'll be seeing heaps more of Sammy on the channel. I suppose like if there's anything you'd like to see from either of our perspectives, living here in Thailand, Sammy training fighters in multiple styles. Because, I've been keeping the podcast quite analytical, talking news and stuff like that. But I think in the work that we can do can be a little bit more day in the life sort of style. Yeah. So let us know. Let me know what you want to know from Sammy, because we're going to keep him around. We've got something pretty cool in the works that we're going to announce in the next couple of weeks. And I think you're going to really like it. Good things happen to good people, Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Sammy Cass. Thank you, brother. Doing it again soon. See you soon.